Alright, we are live, ladies and germs. And I'm just going to put it to you this way. I'm going to be tearing NASCAR a new asshole this week because some of the stuff we saw this week was just fucking garbage. And there's quite a bit to talk about. So, let's get into it. This is The Fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packerman, and welcome to tonight's live stream of The Fuel, where today we are going to be reviewing the Folds of Honor Quiktrip 500, a giant pile of shit of a race. And there's only going to be one sidebar to the absolute fucking garbage that went on with this race weekend, I should say. But give me 1 second here. I forgot to put something in. Because of course I did. Down. Advanced audio properties. There we go. Forgot to put in the background music. Alright, so it is Sunday, March the 21st, 2021. It's just past 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the 76th edition of The Fuel, and the title for tonight's episode, NASCAR Has No Honor. And the reason why I say that is because some of their decision making this weekend and some of the shit that we saw on track, it's a headache inducer. And it just makes you wonder, because NASCAR was off to such a good start. I mean, the Daytona 500 wasn't, the greatest start, but, the last couple of weeks have actually been pretty good. And then we come to Atlanta, a track that I have long said has been in dire need of a repave, because the racing just isn't that good at Atlanta anymore. And lo and behold, this race was total trash. But there was also some other things that happened during this weekend that just makes me want to pull my hair out. And as you can see, I got a lot of hair to pull out right now. It's so infuriating because NASCAR was off to such a good start, and then it just goes right into the toilet for this week. But considering that Atlanta, kind of sucks right now with its old worn out pavement that is in dire need of repaving, yeah. It's pretty frustrating, to say the least. Trying to think of what else. There was something else I was thinking of. I can't remember. Shit. Oh yeah, I was gonna do this. Wait, what's that here? Yeah, that'll probably look a little bit better. That's what I was thinking of. Alright, so what are the headlines for today's event? Blaney got his first win of 2021, and in doing so, the season of parody continues. Of course, that's the same headline that we had last week, but it's true. 6 races, 6 different winners. And, you know, I do like Ryan Blaney. He's a cool guy. Of course, Ohio boy. He's from Hartford Township, I think it was. Hartford Township, Ohio. Same as his father, Dave Blaney. So, you know, I always love to support, you know, a fellow Buckeye. It's just what happened at the end of this race that really fucking pisses me off. Team orders. They absolutely suck ass. And it was pretty clear. And let's just jump right to the end real quick. Fuck it. You know, it's pretty obvious to me that there were some team orders going on. Because while Larson was leading, Logano was the last car in the lead lap late in the race. And it was pretty clear that he was, you know, trying to hold up Larson, you know, giving him the dirty air and making his car handle worse. You know, and Eric Easted tried to say, well, it's fair game. He's trying to stay on the lead lap. Yeah, well, that argument holds no water when Blaney gets the lead from Larson, and then all of a sudden, immediately afterwards, Logano just lays over and is like, "Oh, you can have it. You can get by me, guy. It's fine." What? So you cannot honestly tell me that that was not orchestrated. I mean, doesn't it seem rather odd that Logano would try to stay as, you know, would race Larson as hard as he could to stay on the lead lap, and then Blaney gets the lead, and all of a sudden Logano lays over? Like, are you fucking serious? That's team orders to the nth degree. And there are some people that are like, well, you know, teammates, you know, he's just doing what any good teammate would do. That might be true, but it doesn't make it morally right. Team orders are an abomination to motorsports. And while they may be quote-unquote legal, they're fucking bullshit. And this was a prime example of that. So, you know, Logano can fuck himself as far as I'm concerned. You know, some people might not agree with that, but I don't care. I mean, team orders are fucking bullshit. And you cannot honestly, I mean, when you consider how hard Logano was trying to hold off Larson, and then all of a sudden, he just magically lays over for Blaney right as soon as he gets by Larson. You're honestly going to try to tell me that that's not orchestrated? Get the fuck out of here. I know team orders when I see it, and that was pretty fucking blatant. And I am not a fan of that in the slightest. So, you know, fuck that shit. And that was just one of the many things that was wrong with this fucking race. Honestly, what was wrong with this fucking weekend? So let's get into that part of it. Splitters. This has been a major complaint of mine for years and years and years. The splitters need to go. Okay, a perfect example of this was in the Xfinity race. When Josh Berry, who's driving the 8 car this week in the Xfinity series, you know, gets off into the grass, you know, has it under control, but the fucking splitter digs into the grass and completely rips the front end off his race car. So in response to this, NASCAR has the grass lowered to where it's even with the pavement of the racetrack. What good is that going to do? I mean, you're honestly going to do that for... Just no. Just no. It's absolutely frustrating because, you know, NASCAR... Basically, this is just NASCAR not wanting to admit that the splitters are a fucking failure. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, these splitters need to go because, I mean, they've caused much more problems than they could have ever solved. And every time these cars get into the grass, I mean, it's a 50-50 chance that the splitters are going to dig in and completely rip the front end off the race cars unnecessarily and having the teams have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to have it replaced when that shouldn't even be a thing to begin with. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous, and that's something that needs to change ASAP. Yeah, and then another big thing that was going on this weekend, pit road nonsense. Of course, we had an incident during the Cup race. I think that was just an honest mistake, but it could have been a lot more serious than it was. But there was an incident in the Xfinity race where Noah Gragson and Daniel Hemrick were, I think, pitted next to each other. They both overshot their pits. I think Hemrick overshot his first, and that caused Gragson to overshoot his. And as Gragson was backing up to get into his pit stall, he damn near backed up into the 18 car, whose pit crew was already, trying to work on the car. And Gragson, basically flashed him the bird as he left, and this resulted in a fist fight on pit road between the two after the race. And of course, the two also were jaw-jacking each other on Twitter as well. Which, I mean, let's be honest here, that doesn't make either of them look good in the slightest. I mean, Gragson, he was already a rich punk to begin with. But now Hemrick, I mean, he's not making himself look any better. So, there you go. But it's the reaction that NASCAR had to Gragson, backing up into the 18 car that really fucking pisses me off. Let's go on Twitter real quick. Now I'm going to switch over to the display capture here in a minute, because this is going to this is probably going to be a little bit irritating, to say the least. Okay, so let me get display capture. There we go. So, NASCAR says Gragson's contact with Hemrick was not deliberate and he won't be penalized. And look who makes this statement. Oh, it's our good buddy Scott Miller. A fuckhead of a man. Probably the worst head official in NASCAR history. And he had this to say about the Gragson-Hemrick incident. We reviewed the incident which occurred between the 9 and 18 cars on pit road during Saturday night's race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. I met with Noah Gragson after the event. A chain reaction of events led to the 18 and 9 both overshooting their pit stalls. The 9 ended up both long and out of his pit box to the outside, and needed to back up as far as possible to have any chance at fully pulling into his box. After reviewing the video, it is our judgment that the contact was not deliberate. Bull fucking shit, okay? That is bull fucking shit. Because it was pretty clear. Turn the display capture back off. It was pretty clear that he was pissed off at Hemrick, as evidenced by the middle finger that he stuck out the window. I mean, if you're honestly going to try to tell me that that was not deliberate, you're out of your fucking mind. Okay? That's fucking nonsense. It was pretty clear that Gragson was a little irritated at Hemrick for overshooting his pit stall, which in turn caused Gragson to miss his pit stall, and Gragson was basically being a little prissy bitch about it. And the fact that NASCAR is just going to just brush this aside so casually, even though there were pit crew guys working on the fucking 18 car, and their lives could have been in serious jeopardy. I mean, who could forget the 1990, Atlanta Journal 500, at Atlanta Motor Speedway when those crew guys got crushed. And there was one guy, I forget who it was. God damn it. He was working on the car, and I think it was one of Terry Labonte's crew. God, I can't remember. My mind's a little foggy at the moment. But there was a crew member who got hit by a car that spun around backwards and was basically killed instantly, which led to the institution of the pit road speed limit. So, I mean, the fact that NASCAR is not treating this with more seriousness than they are is fucking abhorrent. Because those pit crew guys have one of the most dangerous jobs in sports, because they're risking life and limb to go over that wall to change tires, fuel the car, all while there's 40 other cars buzzing right by them, literally inches apart at, what, 40, 50 miles an hour. Even though there's a pit speed limit, let's not forget, these cars weigh 3,400 pounds, and you get hit by one of those going even 35 miles an hour, you could incur some serious injuries, which is another reason why they also instituted the helmets and shit, to try to prevent, serious head injuries and all that stuff. But, the fact that NASCAR is just brushing this aside so casually, it makes me sick. It absolutely makes me sick, and it just makes me think that NASCAR just doesn't give a shit about the pit crew members. Which I really hope that isn't the case, but that's just what I'm getting out of this. And it's like, why are they not taking more drastic measures, to protect the pit crew members that are risking life and limb to go over the damn wall? It's absolutely fucking ridiculous, and NASCAR should rightfully get reamed for it, because they just seem like they don't give a fuck. Absolutely fucking stupid. But those weren't the only things that were, terrible about this weekend, because let's be honest here, this race that I'm about to review was fucking trash. There were some people that were trying to convince us that it was not a bad race, and it's like, well, it was a technical race. A technical race? What the fuck? How do you call a race a good race when there were points that Kyle Larson, who dominated this race, was ahead by 10 fucking seconds? And there were times when there was only 15 cars on the lead lap in the middle of stage 2? Like, you're honestly gonna try to convince me that's a good fucking race? Like, are you serious? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, there's not a whole lot to really talk about. I mean, I literally only have barely 2 pages of notes for this race. I mean, that's how boring this fucking race was. Like, there were literally points where I was asleep on the couch, well, in short bursts, because I would still listen for the race. Like during commercial breaks, I was literally taking short little naps, because it's like this race was so fucking abhorrently terrible that I was literally falling asleep on my couch. Like, it was difficult to stay awake during this race. Like, it was that bad. Alright, so let's just go through the particulars, get this over with and get the fuck out of here. So, yeah, obviously there's not going to be very many positives this week. And rightfully so, because a lot of the shit we saw this weekend was just fucking nonsense. But even when NASCAR is able to start doing some good, they always find a way to fuck it up. Because, that's just their way. So, let's get into this. Faults of Honor Quiktrip 500. More like the fault of dishonor, because this race was fucking atrocious. To the rear of the field, Chase Elliott and Timmy Hill, due to inspection failures, and Quinn Half for unapproved adjustments. Give me 1 second. Dry throats really sucks, as you can tell. So, stages 1 and 2 were 105 laps, with stage 3 being 115 laps. Okay. Denny Hamlin started from the pole, led lap 1. Truex was outside pole, dropped back to 5th. He wasn't really a factor at all in this entire race. In fact, the only one who was a real factor was Larson for basically the entirety of the race, at least until stage 3 when Ryan Blaney started coming alive. Harvick was up to 2nd after starting 7th. He had a real up and down day, and he really struggled for a lot of the race, but actually came back for a top 10 finish despite all of his troubles. Kyle Busch battling for 15th, 3 wide. He was a little bit back in the pack. Tyler Reddick scrapes the wall. And then we had our first caution on lap 26. It was the competition caution, of course. Everyone comes in for service. Kyle Larson wins the race off pit road. Harvick has a flat left rear tire and has to come back to pit road and replace it as the field goes green, obviously from a broken valve stem, probably from a lug nut basically flying off and hitting the valve stem. Was probably the likely culprit. So Larson leads on the restart. Elliott moves up to the top 10 on lap 37 after having to start from the rear, which is not the first time he's had to do so. Kyle Busch had a good car early on, was up to third on lap 53. Denny Hamlin kicks off green flag pit stops on lap 64. Larson cycles back with the lead on lap 67. Larson puts Harvick a lap down on lap 74. Blaney gets by Hamlin for third, and Kurt Busch gets by Hamlin for fourth. And Kyle Larson wins stage 1 by 7 seconds. So everyone comes in for service, and Larson wins the race off pit road. So he leads the start of stage 2. Then we got our second caution right after that on lap 113 when Kurt Busch gets put into the turn 1 wall by Hamlin when the outside line basically didn't really get a good restart. Basically accordioned everyone backwards, and Kurt Busch basically got turned off of Hamlin's front bumper. Larson leads on the restart. Blaney actually led the first lap after the restart, but Larson got back by him on the outside. So we had our first pure lead change on lap 120. Truex slides up the track, and Kez actually gets into the back of him off of turn 4, which caused some front end damage to the two that would pretty much affect him for the rest of the day. I mean, he was pretty much a non-factor after that. Elliott looked like he had some nose damage as well, because it looked like a part of his bodywork had peeled up. Don't know if it was from like front end damage or what the deal was, or if the skin of the car got delaminated or whatever. Daniel Suarez actually had a pretty good run going. He was up in the top 10 a lot. I mean, that's a brand new team Trackhouse. So the fact that these guys are running well despite being a brand new team is pretty damn impressive. Green flag pit stops begin en masse on lap 160. Suarez was 9th at this point on lap 160. Larson was really sticking up this show, because at this point he now had a lead of 10 seconds with 16 laps left in stage 2, and I'm just like, good lord, this is bad. Blaney gets by Bowman for second, and Larson wins stage 2, and at this point I was just like, let's just get this over with. Boring ass race. Everyone comes in for service, and Larson wins the race off pit road. So third and final stage, 115 laps, so he leads the start of stage 3. Field fans out 2 and 3 wide, and then the third and final caution comes out on lap 220. Chase Elliott blows a motor coming off of turn 4. That would end his day. And the hopes and dreams of the Chase Elliott fan base that was in attendance. Of course, it's Atlanta. You know, it's Chase Elliott's home track. So obviously, you know, there's going to be a lot of Chase Elliott fans in the stands. And, well, the broadcast was actually showing a lot of the Chase Elliott fans' disappointment seeing that the 9 car blown up. But considering the fact that Atlanta has a second date this year, Elliott's going to get another chance to get a win on his home track. Everyone comes back in for service because, of course they did, because of a super abrasive racetrack. Blaney wins the race off pit road this time, which shakes things up a little bit, and Kyle Busch gets nabbed for speeding. Ouch. So Blaney leads on the restart. Larson and Hamlin are fighting hard for second. Austin Dillon gets by DiBenedetto for 5th. Then we had our second pure lead change on lap 237 when Kyle Larson gets by Blaney. Blaney actually had to drop back a little bit to get some debris off of his grill, which was causing his engine temperature to spike a little bit. But he got back behind Larson, and the debris blew off the grill. So that was a good job by him. Truex kicks off green flag pit stops with 59 laps to go. And Daniel Suarez gets caught speeding on pit road while running in the top 10. That's a bummer. Then there was a pretty scary incident that happened during the set of green flag stops when Anthony Alfredo looked like he missed his pit stall, tried to jam on the brakes, and actually ended up spinning almost right into Eric Almirola's pit crew. There was actually a pit crew guy that actually got hit a little bit by the right rear corner of the car, but thankfully it didn't look like anybody was seriously injured, and that could have been a lot worse than it was. Ryan Newman reporting a possible power issue. He said he had to switch over to a second battery. So that told me that he either had a short or he had an alternator problem. Blaney was only 1.75 seconds behind Larson with 20 laps to go. Everyone else at this point was 9 seconds or more back, so nobody was even in the same zip code. Blaney closes up to challenge Larson for the lead, and of course this was the point where, you know, Logano was basically trying to hold Larson at bay, you know, to stay on the lead lap. You know, he was racing, apparently he was racing hard to try to stay on that lead lap. This allowed Ryan Blaney to get by for the third pure lead change of the day on lap 315. So basically about 10 laps to go. And then, as I said before, as soon as Blaney gets the lead, the very next corner, Logano basically just lays over and lets both Blaney and Larson go by. Yeah, that's not shady at all. Yeah, pretty obvious that that was team orders, and it might be legal as far as the rule book goes, but it's an abomination to motorsports, and it honestly needs to be eradicated, because fuck that shit. Corey LaJoie bounces off the wall on the backstretch but makes it to pit road, and there was no caution. And Ryan Blaney basically steals the win from Kyle Larson, thanks to some help from his teammate, Joey Logano. So, I'd imagine that Blaney is going to be sending Logano some nice parting gifts after this race is over. Excuse me. So yeah, this race was fucking trash. For a large multitude of reasons. The team orders, the garbage racing. I mean, there was literally nothing of salient value to come out of this race. This was easily the worst race of the year so far. You know, the Daytona, at least the Daytona 500, I mean, that was a pretty boring ass race. But at the very least, it had some level of competitiveness to it. There was none. Almost none here. I mean, Larson led like, he led all but like somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 laps of this race. And yes, he didn't win, but, you know, Logano might have had something to do with that. And here's the thing, would Blaney have been able to get to Larson without Logano being in the way and affecting all that clean air in front of Larson? We'll never know. You know, racing's always full of what ifs. But in the here and now, team orders can fuck off. That's all I got to say about that. So, overall lead changes, we had only 13 total lead changes in the entire 500-mile race. Of course, most of those were green flag pit stops, which means that there were only 3 pure lead changes, only 3 cautions, which is good, but, I mean, the only good side to that is that it may help this boring-ass race get through even quicker than usual, which is great, because this race was, ugh. I would not recommend watching this race ever again. This was easily the worst race of the year. Alright, race results. Top 10 finishers. It's a little weird, but you know. Ryan Blaney with the win. Led just 25 laps. Kyle Larson finishes second. Led 269 of 325 laps. So he led all but 56 laps in this race. Alex Bowman started 14th, finished 3rd, and he desperately needed a good run today. Denny Hamlin started from pole, ended up 4th, led 27 laps. Kyle Busch comes back from his speeding penalty and finishes in the 5th position, so a good top 5 run for him. Austin Dillon in 6th. Chris Buescher, good run today for that 17 car, finishes 7th. William Byron in 8th. Martin Truex Jr. 9th, and Kevin Harvick, who was a lap down for much of this race, comes back and salvages a top 10 finish. Point standings. So, Denny Hamlin continues to lead the way with 277 points. He doesn't have a win yet, but he's finished in the top 5 in 5 of 6 races so far. has led 210 laps. So he's going to start getting back to victory lane, I think, before too long. It probably won't be next week, though. I'll tell you that. Kyle Larson led a shit ton of laps, ended up second, but he does move up to second in the points because he also got 2 stage wins today. Joey Logano ends up third. Martin Truex Jr. Is in fourth. Then Brad Keselowski in fifth. He didn't have a very good day today at all. Harvick, his day could have been better, but he does have 5 top 10s and 6 starts, so he's still 6th in points. Ryan Blaney with his win moves up to 7th. You have William Byron, Christopher Bell had a down day. Chase Elliott drops to 10th in points with his first DNF of the year due to engine failure. The rest of the top 16 in the points, Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch, Michael McDowell starting to drop back a little bit. Alex Bowman, Kurt Busch, and Chris Buescher. That's your playoff field at the moment. And then the rest of the top 20 in points, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ryan Preece, Bubba Wallace, and Ross Chastain. As for my final rating for the Folds of Honor Quiktrip 500, this race was fucking trash. It gets a 1 on the fuel gauge. In essence, a 1 out of 10. This race was fucking trash. And a great battle at the end was ruined by Team Orders. I mean, that's really all I got to say. Fuck this race. I'm ready. I'm glad to be done with it. Let's move on to the next race, and next week is the much anticipated Bristol Dirt Race. The first time that the Cup Series has raced on dirt in more than half a century. Wish, we would have had a better bit of momentum to lead into that race, other than this fucking garbage fire of a race. But, what can you do? It is what it is at this point. But that is going to do it for tonight's edition of The Fuel. I think I've sufficiently ripped NASCAR a new asshole. It isn't the first time. Won't be the last time. I'll promise you that. Because they'll fuck up something further down the road. They always do. It's just in their DNA. But, yep, 1 out of 10 for this race tonight. A 1 on the fuel gauge. Easily the worst race of the year so far. But next week is the Bristol Dirt Race, which a lot of people have been kind of poo-pooing, saying, oh, it's probably not going to be that good. How about we reserve judgment until after we see it? And if it's shit, we can call it shit then. That's how I put it. Because, like I said, I recall, everybody poo-pooing the fucking Charlotte Road Course race, and it ended up being one of the best races of the year in its first year. So I would watch, making that kind of prediction, because it can make you look like a dick. I know that experience firsthand, and I've tried to get away from that. So that's going to do it for tonight's edition of The Fuel. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the Packerman signing out.
Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you rats!